What if Brazil's biggest selection headache right now isn't about who is out of form, but about having too many attackers in top form? Because ahead of the big clashes against France and Croatia, one question keeps coming back again and again. Where exactly does Raphinha fit in this Brazil team? Just 2 days ago, I made a video discussing Brazil's possible starting 11 for those matches. In that lineup, I talked about 4 attackers who, based on current form and tactical logic, could start for Brazil. I placed Estevao Willian on the right wing, Joao Pedro as the center forward, Neymar Jr. as the attacking midfielder, and Vinicius Jr. on the left wing. But after that video, the comments section exploded. Many of you asked the same question: why did I leave out Raphinha? So today, in this video, we're going to clear that up once and for all. We'll break down the tactical reasons, the form analysis, and the realistic options available to Carlo Ancelotti. And by the end, you'll clearly understand why Raphinha may not be a guaranteed starter right now. First of all, let's talk about Brazil's tactical identity. Traditionally, Brazil play wing-based attacking football. Their system is usually built around width, pace, and creativity from the flanks. And because of that, the most suitable formation for this team has consistently been the 4-2-3-1. This shape allows Brazil to field 2 natural wingers, 1 attacking midfielder and 1 central striker. In other words, for dedicated attackers. Without this structure, it becomes very difficult for Brazil to maximize their offensive strengths. But here's the catch. When you commit 4 players to attack, your midfield naturally becomes more compact and defensively responsible. That's why the double pivot in midfield becomes non-negotiable. For a long time, we've seen Casemiro and Bruno Guimaraes filling those deeper midfield roles, providing balance behind the attacking 4. So once you lock in that midfield structure, the real battle begins in the front 4. Now, let's move to the key question. Why didn't I include Raphinha? The main reason I highlighted earlier is very simple. The right wing position must go to the player who currently has Carlo Ancelotti's strongest trust based on recent performances. And if we judge purely on recent impact for Brazil, Estevao Willian has made a very strong case. Under Ancelotti's system, Estevao has been extremely productive. In fact, if you look at Brazil's recent matches, he has been one of the most decisive attackers. In his last 6 appearances for Brazil, he has scored 5 goals, including goals in each of the last 2 matches. That is elite output for a winger. When a young player is delivering numbers like that and building the coach's confidence, it becomes very difficult to justify benching him. Realistically speaking, Ancelotti is unlikely to take such an informed winger and suddenly drop him to the bench. So based on current momentum, the right wing spot strongly favors Estevao. Next, let's look at the left wing, and honestly, this is the easiest decision in the entire lineup. Vinicius Jr. is almost untouchable in this position. His pace, directness, and big game experience make him Brazil's first-choice left winger without any real debate. Unless there is an injury or suspension, Ancelotti is almost certain to keep Vinicius in the starting 11. So now, 2 of the 4 attacking spots are already locked. Estevao on the right and Vinicius on the left. That leaves us with 2 remaining positions, the attacking midfielder and the center forward. This is where things get interesting. If Neymar Jr. is included in the squad, and from all indications, Ancelotti still values him highly, then Neymar naturally becomes the first-choice attacking midfielder or even a false 9, depending on the tactical setup. Let's be honest here. When Neymar is fit and selected, there is no like-for-like replacement for his creative influence in this Brazil team. His ability to drop deep, create chances, and control tempo is still unique within the squad. That's why, in my view, if Neymar is called up, he walks straight into the starting 11. It would be extremely surprising to see him on the bench in a big match scenario. So now we arrive at the final attacking slot, the center forward role. If Brazil decide to use a traditional number 9, then based on recent form, the 2 players most likely to compete for that spot are Joao Pedro and Matheus Cunha. Among them, Joao Pedro has been showing very promising signs and could realistically lead the line if Ancelotti prefers a proper striker. This is exactly why I previously included Joao Pedro in the projected starting lineup. Now think about it logically. If Estevão is starting on the right, Vinicius is fixed on the left, Neymar is operating centrally, and Joao Pedro is leading the line. Where exactly does Raphinha fit? This is the core of the issue. It's not about Raphinha being a poor player. Far from it. He is actually in very good form. But squad selection is about balance, roles, and tactical fit. And right now, fitting Raphinha into this specific structure is not straightforward. There are, however, a couple of alternative scenarios. Option 1. Ancelotti could play Neymar as a false nine and shift Raphinha into the attacking midfield role. If that happens, Joao Pedro would likely drop out of the starting 11. This setup would prioritize fluid movement and creativity over having a fixed striker. Option 2. If Ancelotti decides not to use a traditional center forward at all, Neymar could start as the central false nine, with Raphinha playing behind him as an advanced playmaker. In that case, Brazil would rely heavily on positional rotations and dynamic attacking movement rather than a classic number 9 presence. But there's also a third, and perhaps most controversial, option. If Ancelotti is determined to start Neymar, Raphinha, Vinicius, and a center forward altogether, then the only realistic sacrifice would be benching Estevao Willian. However, based on Ancelotti's recent positive comments about Estevao and the youngster's current goal-scoring form, this scenario feels less likely at the moment. Coaches rarely drop in form players who are delivering consistent numbers. That's why, when you analyze the situation calmly, it begins to look like Raphinha may initially be used as a high-impact substitute, not because of poor performance, but because of tactical congestion in the attacking line. In many ways, this could simply be bad timing for Raphinha, especially if Neymar successfully returns to the squad. However, the situation could change quickly. If Neymar is not called up for any reason, whether fitness or tactical preference, then Raphinha immediately becomes a strong candidate to start in the attacking midfield role. So Neymar's selection status is absolutely crucial to this entire discussion. Interestingly, this problem doesn't affect Rodrygo in the same way. Rodrygo offers much more positional flexibility. He can cover the left wing behind Vinicius, operate on the right, play centrally, or even function as a false nine when needed. Because of that versatility, Ancelotti has far more freedom when managing Rodrygo's minutes. With Raphinha, the positional puzzle is much tighter. So when you put all the pieces together, Carlo Ancelotti is actually facing what coaches often call a good problem. Too many quality attackers competing for limited spots. But make no mistake, it is still a genuine selection headache, especially regarding Raphinha's best role in this evolving Brazil system. Now the big question is for you. If Neymar returns to the squad, do you think Raphinha should still start? And if both of them must play together, what will be the best tactical setup to make it work without weakening the team's balance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to see how you would solve this puzzle. That's all for today's video. See you in the next one. And until then, take care.